Hello students, we are dealing with the course guidance and counseling, and now it is week number 11 and we are dealing lecture number 5, and the topic of discussion is ethical and legal issues of guidance and counseling. What we are going to discuss in this lecture, let us understand it. First of all, we will try to introduce the concept of ethical and legal aspects of the counseling process, and then we will also throw an light on forms of unethical behaviors in the counseling, and what are the ethical and legal issues we will also discuss, and what may be the strategies for addressing ethical and legal issues. It will also be taken into consideration, and finally we will conclude our lecture. Now let us understand uh, the topic with discussion. Definition of ethics involve, when we are talking about the ethical aspect and the legal aspect, then we need to understand what is the meaning of the ethics. A very simple definition given by the Kinner in 1986, making decisions of a moral nature about people and their interaction in the society. If you are making the moral decisions about any individual and about his interactions with the society, that it basically related to the ethical aspect. Ethics is generally defined as a philosophical discipline that is concerned with human contact and moral decision making. We have to take at many junctures decisions in our life, and we have to follow certain values in making those decisions, and these are values basically associated to the ethical principles. The human contact and moral decision making process are always associated in an interactive process, and then we make the decisions about the ethics. Ethics is normative, that is prescriptive in nature, and focuses on principles and standards that govern relationship between individuals, such as those between counselor and the clients. We are talking ethics in regard to the counseling process. So we have to analyze certain ethical aspects in relation to the counseling process, where counselors and the clients are associated with each other. What kind of ethical principles we need to follow in the counseling process in order to do the justice with the student, because ethics is also related to the justice. If you are morally corrupt, then definitely you may not be provide the justice to the client in making the counseling process. Forms of unethical behaviors in counseling, there are certain forms we can understand: exceeding one's level of professional competency, negligent practice, claiming expertise one does not possess, imposing one's values on a client, exceeding one's level of professional competency. There are limits of every individual, and counselors are also having their limits on the basis of their expertise, on the basis of their certification, on the basis of their knowledge and experience in that area. Sometimes they are basically exceeding with their limit and engaging the client in counseling process, even though they are not competent enough to solve that complicated problem of the candidate. So if the counselor is engaging in the problem in spite of knowing the fact that he or she is not having the competency to deal the issues and the problems of the candidate, that is basically against the ethical principles. Negligent practices, that the person is not serious in attending all the criteria which is needed to perform a very effective counseling sessions in individual counseling process as well as in group counseling process. So claiming expertise one does not possess. Sometimes we have high expectations with us, and present ourselves as an expertise, even though we are not having that expertise available with us. Imposing one's values on client, because value struggle is always there when you are making contact with any individual or group of members of the group. Then if the counselor is imposing his values and expecting the clients to follow those values, that is against the principle of ethics, creating dependency in a client. Clients must be given opportunity to take their self decisions rather than making them depending on the others. Sexual relationship with the client also is against the principle of ethics. There should not be any intimate relationship which exceed the boundaries of the social values. Certain conflicts of interest, such as dual relationship, where the role of the counselor is combined with another relationship, either personal or professional. So, counselor should understand he is a professionally trained person, professionally competent person. He or she has to do the task in a professional manner, and the personal aspects and professional aspect should not interfere in providing the counseling to the students. Ethical and legal issues. Ethical and legal issues in guidance and counseling encompass several key areas, including confidentiality, informed consent, potential psychological risks, and role of the group leader. Counselors must navigate these issues to ensure the safety and well-being of all group members while adhering to ethical guidelines and legal mandates. Let us understand what are the basically ethical issues which are encountered during counseling process, whether it is a group counseling, whether individual counseling, whether a group guidance, or whatever is there. Number one is confidentiality. Maintaining confidentiality is crucial for fostering trust and open communication within the group. If you are you have created the group and you are performing the group guidance counseling sessions, then the members must be known in the beginning and they must be assured that they should not share the uh, information of their colleagues with any other person. That confidentiality has to be maintained by all the members of the group. If the person is engaged in the personal counseling session, then the the information which is highly pertinent and highly crucial and confidential related to the client, the counselor should not share that information to the teachers, to the parents, and anybody until and unless there are certain obligations to share that. So, counselors must clearly explain the limits of confidentiality, including situations where they are legally obliged to break confidentiality. For example, reporting suspected child abuse or threats of harm. If such kinds of situations are arising in the group dynamics, then the counselor has a right to break the confidentiality and pass the information to the concerned authorities for taking remedial steps or corrective measures. Second important aspect is informed consent. Members should be fully informed about the group's purpose in group counseling and group guidance sessions, structure of the group, rules and regulations, and potential risk before joining, like confidentiality. So, when counseling sessions are performed, then the informed consent is highly essential, which is very important in counseling process, and it follows the ethical principles. This includes understanding the nature of the group dynamics, the role of the leader, and the potential for emotional vulnerability. Means that the student must know the group dynamics, counselor should also know the group dynamics, and he should also clearly define the goal of the leader of the group. And if he is or she is providing the individual counseling, then the goals are very clear in his or her mind. And informed consent ensures. Why we are taking informed consent? Because it assures members participate vulnerability and with a clear understanding of what to expect. They must be informed what is expected from them, in what circumstances they will have to face in counseling process, in what aspect they have to discuss, what expected from them to reveal their uh, conscious, subconscious and unconscious parts of their personality, what decisions they have to take, what insights they have to gain. And the third aspect is related to the psychological risks. They are also involved in counseling process. Group counseling can involve emotional intensity and vulnerability, which may possess psychological risks and some for some individuals. So psychological risks are also associated if any harm, if anything is done by any group member to any other person, or the confidentiality is not adopted or implemented in true perspective, then there is a possibility of the person may lead to stress and anxiety that is related to the psychological aspects. Counselors must carefully screen potential members, assesses their suitability for group work, and provide support to manage any potential negative impacts. Psychological risk is also related to the task of the groups are not decided well. Some are given more significant positions or liberty and others are not given. Justice is not maintained. In such a situation, some may feel neglected or isolated, and there is a possibility of the psychological risk involved in that. However, we are trying to solve the problems of the student, and if we are not following the ethical principles, then there is a possibility of creating disturbance in the minds of the students. Group leaders' role must also be very defined, and it is also based on the ethical aspects. Sometimes groups leaders are not knowing uh, about their roles, what they want to do. Their role is basically to achieve certain objectives. Their role is basically to seek cooperation of each and every members, to provide opportunity to discuss and present their ideas and insight to all the members. The group leader's role is also very important. Group leaders' values, their biases and behaviors can influence the group dynamic and impact members. If the group leader is not working with the members in a positive manner, cooperative manner, or working in a biased manner and ensuring the subjectivity in his temperament, then all the atmospheres of the group counseling and the group guidance will automatically be disturbed, and that will further create problem rather than solve the problems. Leaders must be aware of their own values and how they might affect the group's process. Their personal values should not come in hindering the process of the group guidance. They also need to be skilled in managing group dynamics, including addressing conflicts, promoting inclusivity, and facilitating healthy communication. These are basically the aspects which must be taken into consideration by the group leaders. If the group leader is not following these basic principles, then it is also creating problems in the psychological and other kinds of the problems in the minds of the clients, and it will be considered as an uh, principle which is against ethics. Dual relationship. Counselors must avoid dual relationship with group members, social or business relationship, to prevent conflicts of interest and maintain professional boundaries. Dual relationship means that one person is associated to social aspect or business relationship, like they must avoid this dual relationship with the group members, and they should take all the parameters which are needed to cooperate, coordinate, and everything should be based on the principles set in advance to achieve certain objectives. There should not be any conflict of the personal values of the counselor and the values of the client, and personal relationship of the counselor and counseling relationship, professional relationship and the counseling relationship. These kinds of dual relationship basically create problems. Appropriate termination. A student should be well aware at which stage they have to terminate the counseling process. They must be prepared for termination and have a clear understanding of post group support options. If you are terminating the counseling session as an individual, as a member of the group, then what may be the post group supportive options which can be followed in later stages. Social justice. Group leaders need to be aware of the social justice issues and how they may impact group members. This includes addressing issues of diversity, equity and inclusion. We should not differentiate between the members belonging to different caste, color and culture, religion and language. We need to maintain equity and a concept of equality and inclusivity. Okay, we have to look the needs and the requirement of each and every individual. We cannot we cannot be effective in certain in providing counseling to certain individuals and ignoring the difficulties and the issues of the others. Social justice need to be maintained. The task of the counselor is basically to provide assistance to the individual in managing their difficulties, challenges and getting rid of from stress, anxiety and depression. That must be the basic principle. Whosoever is suffering, whether the male member or the female member or coming from any social, economic and caste and culture background, that has to be taken into consideration by the counselor. Mandated reporting. Counselors are often mandated reporters, meaning they are legally obligated to report suspected child abuse, elder abuse or other forms of harm. They need to keep an eye on all the members who are involved in the counseling processes. If in such kinds of issues generally appear in the group counseling sessions, where there is a possibility of the child abuse, elder abuse or other forms of the harm, they need to be they need to provide reporting to the concerned authorities. The problem of the child may be related to the abuse, may be related to the elder abuse. Abuse can be of many types and you are well aware what kinds of abuses are there. Legal issues are also associated. Mandated reporting. Counselors are often mandated reporters, meaning they are legally obliged to report suspected child abuse, elder abuse or the other forms of the abuse. It is mandatory on the part of the counselor. They are legally bound to provide this report or to report the concerned authorities to take corrective measures and punitive measures if necessary in that regard. This is not the domain of the counselor to correct them, rather it is the domain of the other areas where authorities are involved, where legal aspects are involved, judiciary is also involved. Duty to warn or protect. It is a group members. If a group member poses a serious and imminent threat to themselves or others, counselors have a legal and ethical duty to warn potential victims and take steps to protect them. They have the right, legal right. They have to protect the members from any kinds of the abuse. So there are so many ethical principles which they have to follow and they are legally bound to do certain tasks. If the person is ignoring all these legal issues, then it means he is again going against the basic principles of ethics in counseling process. Confidentiality laws. Counselors must comply with state or federal laws regarding confidentiality, such as Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. It is related to the US. Here, if we conducting the counseling in Indian context, then we have to follow our rules and regulations, and we have the fixed rules and regulations for that, and the counselor should have the knowledge of that, and he should also study them or discuss these legal aspects related to the confidentiality, to what extent we are accountable to maintain the confidentiality about various characteristic features and the behavior and the problems and the issues faced by the client. Professional liability. Counselors can be held liable for malpractice if they fail to provide competent and ethical care to their clients. If you are not doing justice in providing the counseling, you are not following the ethical standards, then you are considered professionally accountable for that. The professional liability is also associated to this aspect. Licensure and scope of practice. Counselors must practice within the boundaries of their professional licensure and scope of the practice. Every counselor cannot engage in all kinds of the problems of the client. There are areas. A school counselor cannot handle the problems of the family counseling or any other areas where counseling is needed. We have discussed all in previous lectures. So, licenses are issued as licenses are issued for medical professions. Doctors, allopathics are doing their allopathic treatment, and Ayurvedic people are associated to their Ayurvedic, and Unani medicine doctors are associated to that. They are not supposed to engage in any other areas. That is basically the significance of the license, and that basically determine the scope of the counseling. So it must be the responsibility of the counselor that he or she is not basically crossing the boundaries which the licensor or the certifying agency imposes on him or her. Now, strategies for addressing ethical and legal issues. Now, in coming 15 minutes, we will try to understand what are basically the difficulties which we can face and we can discuss. Navigating the complexities of group counseling requires a strong understanding of both ethical and legal consideration to create a safe and effective therapeutic environment for all participants. So, we need to enhance, counselors need to enhance understanding of both ethical and legal considerations, so that he is basically creating an environment where effective therapeutic session or counseling sessions or helping sessions can be established and implemented. This includes uphold ethical principles, address challenges proactively. Third, utilize support and guidance. These are the three basically areas which we need to work upon it. What is uphold ethical principles? Informed consent. Ensure participants understand the group's purpose, structure, risks, benefits, confidentiality limits, and their rights to withdraw at any time. Consider a written consent document reviewed verbally to address any concerns or questions. Informed consent is highly essential. This is to uphold the ethical principles. The first principle is that we have to take the informed consents of the all members who are engaged in individual counseling as well as in group counseling situations. And they must be known what are the risks associated to the individual counseling and what are the risks associated to the group counseling sessions, and what are the benefits of that, and how the structure will take place, how many sessions the counselor will take, and how many sessions in group counseling situations will be undertaken. That must be clear to every client, every student, if we are providing counseling and guidance to our students at a school level. Second important principle is confidentiality. Emphasize the importance of maintaining confidentiality within the group and explain its inherent limitations. Duty to protect in case of harm to self or others. It is the duty of the uh, counselor. He must maintain the confidentiality, but in that also he has to protect the case of the harm also. He or she should also consider this aspect, where he or she has to break the confidentiality in the interest of the client. If some potential harm is expected, then he has to break the confidentiality. Otherwise, he or she has to maintain the confidentiality aspects. Autonomy. Respect each member's right to participate voluntarily and control the extent of their sharing. Avoid pressuring individual to disclose more than they are comfortable with. That is the very important. Autonomy of the individual must be protected. He has a right to explain whatever he or she wants to explain, and he has the right whatever he or she doesn't want to explain. The pressurizing the individual in, in elaborating and deeply whatever he or she is facing problem, that should not be the task of the counselor, and it is basically against the ethical principles. So we need to uphold ethical principles by providing autonomy to our clients. Why we are conducting counseling? Why we are providing guidance to the student? It is for their benefit. It is an assistant. If the person is not ready to take assistant, then why we are engaging in their personal domain? That is the concept of basically to understand the things. Beneficence. Strive to act in the best interest of the group, promoting positive change and facilitating a supportive environment. This is also very important. Okay, we are working in the interest of the students, and if we are conducting counseling in group session, then every person must be the beneficiary of that. Justice must be held. That is also related to the ethical principles. Ensure equitable treatment for all members, respecting diversity and avoiding discrimination based on background, identity, or circumstances. Justice must be done to all. All are equal. Equal opportunities must be provided to them. We need to respect the diversity. We need to avoid discrimination that can be related to the socio-economic background, identity of a person related to any culture group, and the circumstances in which we are giving the counseling opportunities. Integrity. Maintain professionalism and transparency with the group, upholding the highest standards of conduct and being honest about the group process. Professionalism is basically related to that. Professional integrity must be maintained, and there must be a transparency with the group. And the group members must know that the counselor is having certain values and he is known for that value, or she is known for that value. So, highest standard of conduct related to the honesty, related to their relationship, related to the group in processes, interaction, cooperation, coordination and collaboration are highly essential, and they are basically the pillars for upholding ethical principles. And the second aspect is related to the address challenges proactively. Proactively. Carefully screen individuals to ensure they are a good fit for the group and address any potential concerns before they join. screen potential participants. Are they fit enough to engage in the group counseling session? If they are having any difficulty, any concern, then it must be deal in the beginning of that. We have to look addressing challenges in this regard. Carefully screen, carefully, sorry, set clear boundaries, establish clear guidelines for communication and interactions within the group, and address potential boundary crossing or violations promptly and appropriately. We need to set certain limits or the boundaries, and these limits or boundaries are very important in regard to the communication and the interaction among members of the group, and there must be clear warning and clear direction that those limits should not be crossed or violated, and at this juncture the counselor has to take action. Address challenges proactively. The second and the third aspect is manage conflict effectively. Develop and utilize conflict resolutions skills to navigate disagreements within the group constructively, promoting understanding and respect among members. There will be the conflict among group members. We need to address those conflicts in an intelligent manner. Conflicts by enhancing the understanding of the members of the group with each other, enhancing the cooperation and coordination among the members. By applying such kinds of the techniques, the counselor will be able to address challenges of the conflict in a better manner. Beware of power dynamics. Recognize and address potential power imbalances within the group, ensuring all voices are heard and respected. We should not give in undue significance to any individual and allowing the others not to reveal uh, or not to give the freedom related to that. Beware of power dynamics. Promote cultural competency. Understand and respect the diverse backgrounds and cultures of the group members, adapting approaches and techniques to foster an inclusive and culturally sensitive environment. Cultural competency is basically to deal with the people belonging to the different cultures. We need to understand these aspects very clearly. Utilize support and guidance, seek regular supervision, engage in ongoing clinical supervision with an experienced and qualified group supervisor to discuss challenges, develop skills and ensure ethical practice. Seek regular supervision. Consult with colleagues. Seek consultation and peer support when facing challenges, challenging ethical dilemmas or seeking different perspectives on potential solutions. There is nothing wrong to discuss and consult with the colleagues if someone is facing in managing the affairs or managing the things in a better manner. To support, utilize support and guidance is also related to solve many kinds of the problem. We need to constantly supervise the process and we need to take the consultation with others members, stay informed, keep abreast of current ethical guidelines, best practices and relevant legal regulations covering group counseling through continuing education and professional development activities. Keep informed means that the ethical guidelines must be aware to the counselor. Best practices must be aware. Legal and relevant and legal regulations must be known to the counselor. Stay informed means all kinds of the difficulties and the problems and the related knowledge and expertise must be available to the or must be known to the counselor. Document everything. It is also the responsibility of the counselor to maintain thorough records of informed consent procedures, confidentiality agreements and breaches or concerns when they face during counseling sessions and the steps taken to address them. This documentation serves as a valuable resource for accountability and future learning. Let us conclude our discussion by implementing these strategies and maintaining a strong commitment to ethical principles and legal obligations. Group counselors can effectively address challenges and create a safe and beneficial therapeutic experience for all participants. We need to understand that when we are providing guidance and counseling session to our student, then we cannot cross the limit. uh, that limit basically set by the ethical principles and the legal principles, and these legal aspects and ethical aspects are highly important if we are really interested in providing the true counseling to the student. If any counselor or the group members are not following these ethical principles or the legal boundaries, then it will be very difficult to provide the counseling. Rather, it will provide a negative impact on the student's mental health. So with this, we have completed our lecture. Thanks for your patience listening, and God bless you.